Before there were galaxies, before the first light flickered across the veil of darkness, there were the 12. Not born, but formed beings of consciousness older than time, forged in the pressure and silence of collapsing dimensions. They were not gods in the way mortals understand gods. They had no temples, no followers, no prayers. They were forces, each bound to a fundamental principle of the cosmos: entropy. Memory, matter, time, thought, decay, light, gravity, will, silence, infinity, and rebirth. Together, they were called the Celestial Pantheon. For eons, they drifted through the unshaped chaos, shaping it with their will. It was the first silence, an era when space had no name and stars had yet to burn. From the ashes of collapsed realities, the 12 carved the skeletal frame of a multiverse, each taking dominion over their chosen element. At the center of their rule was Niruen, the god of time and echo. Niruen could hear the future like a whisper in reverse. It was he who saw the coming of the seeds, the mortals. He foresaw their rise, their machines, their ambitions. He saw their curiosity as both gift and curse. And so Niruen warned the Pantheon, one day they will reach for the stars not to learn, but to take. We must remain hidden until they forget we existed, but not all agreed. Savareth, goddess of thought and curiosity, defied him. She longed to see what would happen if the seeds reached beyond their world. Let them rise, she said. Let them find us. And in finding us, remember what they once were. For the truth was this: mortals were not accidents. They were fragments, scattered memories of a broken god long consumed by the void. The 12 had shaped life from that divine detritus, never revealing the origin, not even to each other. But now, something had changed. From a distant spiral arm of a young galaxy, a signal pierced the void. Primitive, weak, but unmistakably intelligent. A transmission not of worship, but of detection. A mortal civilization had sent their voice into the dark, and someone had answered. It was Zelthar, god of entropy. Silent for billions of years, he moved an impossible construct of collapsing light and molten time. His wake devoured dying stars. He had not spoken since the War of Wells, but now he stirred. Why? Because the mortals had awakened a relic they were never meant to find. A ruin. Floating in the void between galaxies, shaped like a cathedral and the bones of a giant, it spun slowly, broadcasting a single pulse in every known wavelength. On board, etched in stone and sealed in quantum locks, was a name: NYRUUN. The mortals believed it was a myth, a story, a cipher. But the signal was real. It called out across space like a heartbeat, steady, patient, and far too complex to be of human origin. When the 12 felt the pulse, they knew the veil was breaking. In secret, a mortal ship called the Odyssey Dawn was dispatched by Earth's unified deep space command. Its crew, unaware of what they truly pursued, were the first mortals to step inside a dead god's tomb. They did not know that gods could sleep, or that they could dream, and in their dreaming, awaken. The Odyssey Dawn breached the edge of the void in silence. No stars shone here, only the eerie blue haze of intergalactic dust, wrapped like a ghost around the relic. It wasn't a station. It wasn't a ship. It was something else entirely. Its structure defied understanding, towers that folded in upon themselves, corridors that looped into oblivion, archways shaped from gravitational lensing. Time bent near it, light slowed, reality whispered. To the human crew, it felt like approaching the memory of a city. Rather than a city itself, Commander Azrael led the team. A veteran of a dozen deep space missions, nothing should have surprised him. But as he floated into the structure's main chamber, a vast cathedral with walls carved in fractal glyphs, he felt something he hadn't in decades: fear. Dr. Kallenmeer, a xenolinguist, was the first to recognize the pattern. These markings, she whispered, eyes scanning the glyphs, are recursive, they speak. And listen, "What are they saying?" Ezra asked. Kellen didn't look up. "They're asking if we remember." In the heart of the chamber was the sarcophagus. Larger than a starship engine, made of dark crystal and obsidian alloys unknown to Earth, it hovered without visible support. Inside, barely visible beneath layers of semi-transparent shielding, was a humanoid shape. Time rippled around it, and then the glyphs flared. A voice not heard but felt spoke into every crew member's mind. It was not in words, but impressions. "You are not the first. You are not the last. You are what we left behind." The crew recoiled. A god was dreaming. Back in the galactic core, the Celestial Pantheon had begun to stir. One by one, the remaining gods awoke from dormancy. Savarith, goddess of thought, drifted through the minds of a million sentient species simultaneously, her voice guiding the curious, warning the reckless. Goran Nail, god of gravity, moved through collapsed black holes like stepping stones, sensing the ripple of the tomb's disturbance. He had once sealed it himself. He had vowed it would never be found. And now, it was too late. Valerix, goddess of silence, wept inside a dying neutron star, her sobs collapsing light into shadow. She remembered the war of the first collapse when the gods fractured, and Neruin sacrificed himself to seal the rift. His death had broken the timeline, scattering fragments of memory fragments that would eventually become humanity. Back on the Odyssey Dawn, Kellen had stopped breathing. Her body stood upright, her eyes glowing with light not from the chamber but from within. She spoke in a voice not her own. "He remembers, and he forgives nothing." The sarcophagus opened. Neruin's form emerged, not in physical motion, but as a projection of time folding around space. He looked human, tall, weathered. His eyes, twin spirals of galaxies, saw every moment that had ever occurred, and those that had not yet begun. Ezra raised his weapon out of instinct. "Stand down," whispered Kellen, her voice layered with static. "You cannot harm time." Neruin stepped forward, not walking, but unfolding through dimensions. He reached toward the crew, and in that instant they saw Earth's wars, its cruelty, its brief flashes of beauty, the burning of Alexandria, the launch of Voyager, the scream of a mother, the birth of a star, the moment man struck stone and created fire. All of it, Neruin had waited to remember. And now he did, but he also remembered why he had erased himself, why the Pantheon chose silence. He remembered the truth. Humanity was not ready. "You carry the echo of gods," he said, his voice not in ears but in time itself, "that you choose noise over memory, power over wisdom, speed over understanding." He looked at Kellen, still glowing. "And yet, you came." The Pantheon was listening. Their judgment had begun. One god had awoken. But would the others allow mankind to inherit their legacy or extinguish it? Across the galaxy, stars began to flicker. Something was coming. The chamber darkened, not from lack of light, but from the arrival of something beyond it. A silence descended over the crew of the Odyssey Dawn, a silence so complete it crushed thought. In that moment, they weren't standing on ancient alien stone. They weren't astronauts. They weren't even human. They were echoes. Time fractured. Space folded. Reality blinked. And then they appeared. 12 figures, standing at the edges of everything, not bound by form, but by essence. Where one stood, galaxies curved around their presence. Another flickered like a dying song. One glowed like a sun with a heart of sorrow. Each was both terrible and beautiful, ungraspable by language. The Celestial Pantheon had arrived. At the center stood Neruin, reborn yet fading. Even he bowed his head. "They have come to judge you." Kellen trembled as her mind expanded far beyond its limits. Images no, truths poured into her like rivers bursting through a dam. Every god bore a question, a final trial for the species that dared to remember them. Zelthar, god of entropy, spoke first. His voice sounded like collapsing stars. "Why do you consume all that you touch?" Captain Ezra responded, barely able to speak. "Because we're afraid to lose what we've gained." Valerix, goddess of silence, sent no words, only a memory of nuclear fire, ice melting into oceans, forests dying in the dark. "Do you hear the cries of the things you silence?" Dr. Amir Solon, the ship's biologist, whispered, "We do, but we don't always know how to listen." Savarith, radiant and vast, stepped forward. "Thought incarnate, you reached for the stars not to learn, but to rule. Do you deserve what lies beyond?" Kellen, still glowing with Neroan's echo, stepped forward. "We never claimed to deserve it, but we came because we needed to understand. We came because we remember our smallness." The Pantheon stirred. For a moment, no one moved. No sound, no signal. And then the verdict came. Not a sentence, not a punishment. A choice, a glyph lit up in the center of the chamber. 12 lines intersected, each representing one god, one law of the cosmos. It was a map, a code, a lock. "This is the key," Neroan said softly, "to our memory, our technology, our truth." Ezra stepped forward. "Then it's ours?" "No," Neroan replied. "It is yours if you can understand it without using it to destroy yourselves. This is not a gift. It is a mirror." With that, the Pantheon began to dissolve, not vanishing, but receding into folds of time and gravity. Their judgment was not damnation, it was possibility. Neroan, the last to remain, turned to Kellen. "I gave up form to protect you. You are the fragments of what we could not be." Kellen asked, voice breaking, "Will we see you again?" Neroan looked through her, as if seeing every future she might choose. "You always will," in the silence between stars, in the questions without answers, in the echoes of what you become. He lifted a hand. The glyph map sank into Kellen's chest like a breath drawn inward. And then he was gone. The chamber collapsed inward, folding into a tear of light. The Odyssey Dawn was thrown clear, saved by laws it didn't understand. Back on Earth, 37 days later, the ship returned to orbit, but it didn't carry answers. It carried Kellen. And in her heartbeat, the gods whispered. She never spoke of the glyphs again, never revealed the code. But from that day forward, she dedicated her life to building a new kind of memory, one rooted in humility, not ambition, and listening, not control. Humanity did not receive divine weapons, interstellar blueprints, or godlike technology. They received something harder, a second chance. And above Earth, far beyond the moon's shadow, a new star blinked into view, faint but constant, watching, waiting. The gods had not destroyed us. They had remembered us. Now it was our turn to remember them.